Did you miss us? That's right. It's Double J in the house for the Dynasty Brews podcast, streaming live right now on Belly Up TV. How's it going, Justin? I know. I've been missing this. We've been gone for like a week and a half, and I've been just like, we got to get this back going. I've had some work issues, and I apologize to the fans, but we're back at it, man. We're back. We're ready to go. And how are you doing today on this fine Friday?
It's good. It's Friday night. Because it's Dynasty, there's not a lot of waiver action. So really, during the season, it's really all about trades to me. I don't know about you, but that's kind of how I function during the season. There's not usually much on waivers that's going to impact your team. So that's just always my focus is what's going on in the trade market.
That's 100% true. I mean, nobody in Dynasty is rushing to go get Kenneth Walker off the waivers. And if you are, well, good luck. I mean, because that league, you're not competitive. That league is just not competitive. It's probably not worth winning. You might as well just drop out of it unless you're winning a lot of money. I don't know. But
probably not. I want in.
Yeah, exactly. You want in on a Dynasty league where Kenneth Walker is available. But anyways, Justin, before we get into what we're going to get into this episode, I want to ask you, because I know you're such a Justin Fields guy, how did you feel looking at that game last night where, a lot of people were like, oh, Justin Fields just needs a good offense, yada, yada, yada. I saw a couple of plays that are promising, but that's kind of like his entire career. You see a couple plays that are promising, and then he kind of just shows you maybe who he truly is 80% of the time. And that's a not so great quarterback who doesn't seem to make all of his reads correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about lots of things when it comes to him, but I think when push comes to shove, and I don't mean to I'm not going to use the analyst's name, but it all comes down to film study for me. When I see people on Twitter praising how he played, I would categorically disagree. And then you listen to a guy like Peter King this morning on Pro Football Talk, seeing the same thing I saw, which is just missing reads. Didn't get a lot of help from his team, but it just doesn't seem to be working. So as a guy that prides himself off of his film scores, I couldn't disagree more that he looked anything better than a couple of bright spots on a terrible team. But I was talking to Steve, friend of the show today. I mean, let's look, not everyone's going to be Josh Allen, but if you're looking for signs of your rookie growth, I mean, Josh Allen put up a 50 burger on Minneapolis with Robert Foster as his wide receiver one his rookie year. Like, you don't need all-star receivers. If you stay within the confines of your offense, it can be you can get a lot of damage done. Justin Fields is throwing a pick in like every game except for 2 this season. So throwing an interception in 60% of your games is not a growth sign to me. So
no, that's completely true. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Justin Fields and Josh Allen are 2 different animals. For me, I've always praised Justin Fields for having speed and not being able to use it. It's the weirdest thing to me that, you see something like him breaking off that 50-plus yard play at the end of the game and not going, oh, this is the weapon we have. Why don't we use it more often? I mean, at this point, they're already vying for a first-round pick in a loaded quarterback draft class anyways. So why not just put him on full display? Say, Justin Fields, here's the football. Do something with it. Kind of just open up the offense. So give him a play. If he can't see anything, react to it. Just go about it as you're fighting for your job because, that could be a very big case at this point. I mean, Josh Rosen got kicked out after being picked, 10th in his draft? He got kicked out the very next year by Kyler Murray. This is not something that is not going to happen because he has first-round capital. This is very likely, that he could be fighting for his job down the stretch of this season because, one, Chicago Bears Nation has to get behind him, and 2, they might – I mean, I don't know about you. Matt Eberflus has not blown me away. They might be looking for a whole new coach sooner rather than later.
I don't think so. I think that Sorry, it's Friday night. I'm a partier. You know me. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no. I think that
Friday night, but still there's sunlight beaming through your glass.
yeah,
Crazy.
busy times going through here. Um, I think you compare the Bears to Denver, and they're two different situations. I think Denver will fire their coach after 1 year. They have expectations to win this year, whereas polls set this team up to be a complete dumpster fire. And I think we are seeing that they just don't trust Fields. Now, um, there is a situation, we've talked about this. I'm telling you, I think Fields is on a different team next year and he gets one more shot. You're looking at an extended version of Josh Rosen, the guy you just mentioned. He's going to get a shot somewhere else. And I'm still looking at Baltimore. That is the place that just screams out to, not Baltimore. I mean, yeah, I mean, I look at a trade with Baltimore. Like I just think Lamar Jackson makes a lot of sense for Chicago. I'm gonna just speak this into existence for the next 3 to 4 months. Um, yeah, I just I feel so strongly about it that it makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Justin Fields and
Well,
two firsts to in a fully guaranteed contract to Lamar Jackson. That is my prediction.
I'm pretty sure if for Lamar Jackson to end up in the dumpster fire, as you referenced, Chicago Bears team, I think that he would have to have um, Ryan Poles and the owner, I can't think of his name right now, personally back up with a dump truck full of money and tons of promises with
110
like
million dollars.
ownership in the future of the Chicago Bears in the.
$110 million of cap space next season.
I don't even think that's enough to get him.
Oh,
Listen, we're
oh,
talking
please.
about I mean, theoretically, yes, it
Man,
is. It
he's
is.
got Velus
But
Jones, man.
we're talking about the Chicago Bears. Why would Lamar Jackson go from the Ravens that have used him well to the Chicago Bears that have an identical quarterback in many ways and have used him like shit? Why would they do that?
I think it would be a great
Why would he do
disservice.
that?
I think it would be a great disservice to say he's an identical quarterback to Justin Fields. Even looking back to Lamar Jackson's
Stylistically wise,
man, but
very similar.
look at Lamar Jackson's rookie year versus Justin Fields. I mean, I was even talking to Steve again today. Like this Bears offense looks worse than it did under Nagy. But even when people are praising Fields last year, like it's night and day. I mean, I can't get behind the fact that I get that they have the same style of play, but one is uber successful because he's a once in a generation talent, and the other is a fast guy playing quarterback that seems to point the finger a lot. He reminds me a lot. He has like the Cam Newton rookie attitude without the Cam Newton rookie, you know, talent.
So, but
Every time
here's
I
the
see
thing.
him, that dude's like flustered, doesn't want to lose. Um, I just, I just get I don't know about you, but it always seems like an excuse. It's like, you know, I've just the things I've picked up on.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I make the comparison, you got to remember Lamar Jackson, when he first came to Baltimore, was not a, the quarterback he is now. He had that speed that, kept the Ravens relevant, and he used it, and he turned it into a second year in which
Playoff
he
run.
scored 50 touchdowns. But what I'm trying to get at is stylistically, they're kind of built the same. I mean, listen, obviously he's not nearly as fast, but when you compare him to Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, they just don't seem to compare because he is an uptick faster than both those guys. Those guys more or less use their body to sometimes bulldoze over a first down, whereas Fields could use his speed and slide into a first down, kind of like Lamar does. And he's very good about sliding down and keeping his body healthy, just like Lamar is. Lamar is very good at where his the placement of everything is for him. He's always
Yeah.
reaching for a first down while running out of bounds. He's very cautious about getting hurt and getting hit, which
Well,
is where I'm
yeah,
kind of like, this is a comparison, but I get what you're saying. It's taken one guy who's, at this point proven that he is going to be getting that $250 million to a guy who may not be getting 250 yards anytime this year.
here's my thing. It's a couple factors because at the end of the day, we're talking dynasty, right? But we're talking the NFL, and the NFL at the end of the day is still a business. Okay. Um, Chicago's got to sell tickets to this brand new stadium they're building. They're going to leave Chicago. I don't think you're going to. We've seen them draft Mitchell Trubisky. We've seen them draft Justin Fields, and God knows, Rex Grossman. Just it's just not in the cards for me to think that they are confident in drafting a quarterback. I think, like you said, they're going to back the truck up. They're literally going to go to his bank account, walk in and say, "Hi, teller. This I'd like to introduce you to Lamar. Lamar, tell them what you would like, and then take it times two, and we will fully guarantee it because we have no idea what we're doing, but we know if we get you to sign here, uh, we're on the right path to starting to win games again." I mean, they traded. I don't have the trade details in front of me, but this is the same ownership that traded for Jay Cutler because they were so desperate to get a quarterback. If there's even an inkling that they can get Lamar Jackson, it's going to get done.
They would have to be going towards $500 million to get him in that organization.
What if they
And
gave him the?
I'm
What
sure
if
they
they
could
gave
make it
him?
happen.
What if they gave him the Mahomes contract for 7 years?
But that's what I'm saying. They'd have to give him $500 million. I mean, let's face it. But I mean, you're willing to make $500 million, but you won't win.
He
You
doesn't know
won't
that. I
win.
mean, it's
You
easy
won't
for us.
win.
It's easy for us to say that, man. And like Steve has said in the past, and I make fun of Steve a lot, like jokingly, but bad teams are bad until they're not. No one could have told you that when Josh Allen became a Buffalo Bill, that the Buffalo Bills were somehow going to be good. I mean, I was staring down Robert Foster, Josh Allen, washed up LaShawn McCoy, um, and God knows who else was on that roster. Like, things change in the NFL overnight. Like, what looks bad today doesn't look bad tomorrow. That's why Dynasty is so fun because, like, I've done well because I have a decent crystal ball for this stuff, but like, nothing stays consistent in the NFL. Like, things are going to change. They have $108 million. Let's say they give 60 of that guaranteed to Lamar today. That still leaves you $68 million to go get another wide receiver. They can maybe get Michael Thomas. I don't know if he's looked good when he's played this season. Um, there's lots of other players. I don't have the free agent class in front of me, but I think receiver is the easiest thing to fix in the NFL. I mean, I remember one time Devontae Parker was a thing. He was like a stud for Miami one year. Like, I think receiver is the easiest thing to fix outside of running back. You invest in offensive line a little bit more, and I don't even know if I can say that because our offensive line's not that bad. This team really does feel almost like a quarterback and a couple receivers away. And I know that's a hot take, but it's really not as
They're
bad as
they're
people.
they're a lot away from it. I think that offensive line is still not very good. I
Justin
think
Fields has
that
had like 4 seconds to throw, like the entire season. He has the most time in the league and leads by 0.2 of a second than any other quarterback in the league. Is a
okay.
stat I saw today, which is surprising. I mean,
In the
off
pocket, or is that
it's a statistic I saw. So
that's what I'm trying to say. Is it like when he's like roaming outside the pocket, does he have that time, or is it strictly drop back in the pocket? He has over 4 seconds to throw. Because that makes a difference, right? Because
it, it does it
it's just
does.
like Russell Wilson when he had shitty offensive lines and they were trying to down the offensive line, but then you look back and he had like the 10th best freaking time to throw.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where you got to really take into the context of the situation. What's going on in that moment? Is it he's rolling out and having more time because he's able to use his legs to roll out and scan the field, which he doesn't do very well. But, is that the case with that? I mean, the Bears offensive line, I don't know if it's been amazing. I can't say it's been the worst, but there needs to be improvements there. It needs to be improvements in the receivers, and there needs to be improvements on the defense, to be
let me.
honest with you.
We're quick to say it's the offensive line. I mean, if the offensive line was that bad, their running backs would not be doing as hell of good as they are. By the way. I mean, I know that there's pass blocking and run blocking, but the running backs seem to have a pretty easy time getting through the holes there. I really don't think this team is as bad as their record says they are. I mean, fuck, they beat San Francisco week 1, and I know it was in a monsoon, but you win those monsoon games because you have a good line on both sides of the line. They're really not that far off. I really think if they get a quarterback, and then they're able to get a couple receivers either through free agency or the draft, they can turn this thing around. I mean, granted, I've never seen, I don't know if a 28-year-old rookie is going to be the future. I thought that was the worst pick I've ever seen. But like, I'm telling you, once you get quarterback, everything else in this league becomes a hell of a lot easier to hit on when you get a quarterback.
Yeah. No, 100%. Usually when you get a quarterback through the draft, it makes it easier to build your team for when that quarterback eventually needs the contract. Sorry, I'm looking up PFF's grades for him right now. I do want to talk about another thing because we're getting way too far offline with this Justin Fields thing. I think it's an interesting topic, but probably not as interesting as we've made it out to be. I do want to talk about Brian Robinson scoring his first touchdown. Obviously, Antonio Gibson was kind of taking a back seat here. Do you like Brian Robinson going into the future of Dynasty? Do you think he's somebody that you want to target or, possibly draft in future startups?
Yeah, I have no interest in Brian Robinson. Good player. That whole backfield's a mess. I mean, J.D. McKissick is still there. J.D. McKissick's fine. I don't think Gibson's going anywhere. Robinson's strictly going to be the rushing guy. It's almost like it's like a Patriots backfield, in the grand scheme of things. I want none of these players because they all have clearly defined roles. And, I think the prop last night was like Brian Robinson to get 8.5 receiving yards. Well, he had 0 because he simply doesn't catch the ball in the backfield. Like when he's on the field, he's either blocking or he's running. That's his role, and that limits your upside, especially in a PPR league. So, hard pass for me on that. If I was going anywhere, I'd go towards Gibson because Gibson looked better last night, and Gibson has that pass catching ability. And I still think that he could go somewhere. He could fetch something for you on the trade market. Like he could go to a New England and fill the James White role, or pass catching backs are just I think super valuable. I mean, look at Detroit. Almost all the value for Swift comes from his pass catching work. I mean, he's a good runner, but a lot of his value is in the pass catching game.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Pass catching backs are the key. But I will never say that a running back can't add that little wrinkle to his game. I'm one guy who's actually in on Brian Robinson. I think that you can kind of get him at a little bit of a deal, and I know this one week he looked like he was on the uptick. But, there's a lot of unrest in Washington right now. So you can possibly look into getting him and acquiring him. And he looks like he's a good runner, man. He looks like he's a good, violent downhill runner. And he comes from that legendary Alabama scheme. I like what he's doing so far. I like the tenacity that he has. I like the toughness that he's shown. I'm somebody who's going in on Brian Robinson when Dynasty running backs in startups. If you can get somebody like a Brian Robinson a little bit later and pass up on these guys that are possibly going to expire in a couple of years or so and get somebody who's on the start of his career, I think I might as well give it a shot on those type of guys and go for the wide receivers who maybe have more of a longevity to them in Dynasty than the startup running back.
I'm willing to bet you when startups happen this offseason, the first running back goes off the board in like the 3rd round almost. I think you're going to see the return. I think you're going to see receivers shoot up in value. They've been kind of undervalued for a while. So something I want to look at this offseason in terms of, it's a hunch I have, but I mean, look at Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I got rid of him where I could, but like this offseason, but they're just not worth their weight anymore. They're not even getting the work. And that's why it all comes back to me to the pass catching work. Like that's guaranteed work. You're already starting out if you're doing a PPR league, a full PPR, you're already getting 1 point just for getting on the field essentially once you get a catch.
So
You get 5 catches
at
for 50 yards, you get 10 points, and I'm very happy with a 10-point running back.
So looking at PFF currently, week-to-week basis, I have not seen the Bears ranked higher than 29th on offensive line.
I mean, PFF had Darrell Henderson like RB1 like last year a couple times. So
You also have had RB1 Daryl Henderson fever before.
RB1, I'm okay drafting him, but I'm not gonna lie to you and say he's an RB1 like a Jonathan Taylor. They said he graded out a couple times
well,
as the best
well, did
running
they
back.
say he was RB1 or did they say he was the RB1 for
He
the
graded out as the
Rams?
best running back in the NFL for a
Ah,
couple of weeks last year.
hmm,
Let's not like PFF, but let's not
interesting.
act like PFF
Well,
gets
I
stuff
actually
wrong. One
trust
time,
I trust their offensive line rankings. They've had some, good calls on that one. And plus when you see them consistently at a spot like 29 through 32, you kind of see that
I,
maybe everybody else sees it. That line is actually shit.
I
Um,
mean, it's difficult for me to buy into that when their running backs are getting 5 yards to carry. I just can't get behind that. I mean, I when you get Khalil Herbert breaking off 60-yard runs, and
so,
it's been
but are
more
you
than
saying
once.
that the Texans offensive line is good then?
The Texans
Damian
offensive
Pierce is
line,
averaging like 4 yards per carry.
how many? Yeah, but how many yards is he having? Like we're seeing 65-yard carries. What's his longest run this year?
Well,
Let's
it's,
look.
a breakaway runs aren't really indicative of an
Hold
offensive
on.
line. It's
Let's
more or
check.
less yards per carry. I would say would be more indicative
Let's
of
look.
an offensive line.
Let's look at Damian Pierce this season. All right, so he's at 4.8. All right, so Khalil Herbert. Let's see where Herbert's at. I mean, it's an interesting stat. Herbert is. I mean, I could spend all day on this, but yeah.
As
I
of
mean,
right now,
this
Montgomery is
season,
averaging 4 yards even per
and
carry.
Herbert's at 6.4. If I'm looking at it right.
Yeah, Herbert's had a lot more explosive runs than Montgomery's had. Montgomery's been the more consistent back as far as getting
I just
volume
think.
touches.
I mean, I just think it's hard when I see two running backs getting the job done on the ground. And I don't think we necessarily
And
have them.
all right, here's another thing for you though. Passing and run blocking are two completely different things.
They are, but you said they're the 29th worst offensive line in the league, right?
Yes, I did.
So I mean, if they're the 29th, you're insinuating they're bad at everything out of a team, out of a league with
Well,
32
it doesn't
teams.
mean necessarily they're bad at everything. They could be better at run blocking, but also what could be looked into is yards created on both Montgomery and Herbert as compared to like maybe Pierce or maybe somebody who's on a better offensive line. That's probably the stat you really need to look into is yards created. Player Profiler can give you that one.
All right, we could argue about this all night. I
We
just,
could, we
I
could.
mean,
We've wasted 23 minutes on it. But so I'm excited to get back to this. And one thing I'm really excited about is quizzing you on who would you rather. So I'm gonna give you 5 scenarios with 2 or more players, and you're gonna tell me who you would prefer in a dynasty situation and why.
can I
So
can I take neither at some point, or how does that work?
uh, you have to pick one, but if you have a suitable replacement, you can tell me. Um, so we're gonna start it with 2 guys that you really like, Zach Wilson and Kenny Pickett. Which one would you prefer at this point?
It's pretty obvious. I mean, well, I don't know if it's obvious. I mean, I'm gonna go Wilson. Wilson's the more athletic of the two profiles, I think, and I think he's in a better situation. I think, the thing with Pickett is Pickett's got some great receivers there, but Zach Wilson's got the job. You want to talk about guys I've compared situationally to? If you take Josh Allen's first 2 years and compare it to Zach Wilson's first 2 years, it is the same exact shit. Defense that, I think their defense is getting better. They've been playing a lot better as of late. Last year he had like no one to throw the ball to and no offensive line, which is what Josh Allen had. And then you come into year two, and then you're able to lean on the running game in your defense, which is, that's how you develop a quarterback. So I think that he's had a better chance to develop than Kenny Pickett has. They've thrown Kenny Pickett into absolute terrible territory. Like your first career starts against the best defense in the league. How's that
Yeah,
going to build your confidence? I don't know, but
and it doesn't get better.
yeah. I just, we can talk about it later, but I've I firmly believe that he is the best quarterback and will go down as the best quarterback of this draft class. And partly because he's had the chance to develop and was not handed an Urban Meyer situation or a Trey Lance situation where he gets injured. I just think he's had the best chance to develop, and I think that actually is going to pay dividends for the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I like Zach Wilson too. We did have a comment coming through Facebook from Darren John Lichterman. Per Jim McMahon, Chicago Bears are where quarterbacks go to die. The Bears will be terrible forever. Well,
I mean,
John, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. There eventually someone will survive there. I mean, let's not. Kyle Orton took him to the Super Bowl, didn't he? Or who was it? Was it Kyle
Well,
Orton
I
or Rex?
mean,
Sexy Rexy.
Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense won a Super Bowl, but it was actually Rex Grossman that took him to that Super Bowl.
I can't remember. I just remember Peyton Manning winning a Super Bowl, and I felt cheated because I felt like he's the most unclutch playoff quarterback of all time. But a stat machine though.
Yeah, I mean, his Achilles heel was always waiting for him in the AFC Championship game. Tom Brady.
Giselle was there at the time. R.I.P.
It's always funny to me that Tom Brady has Peyton's number, but Eli has Tom Brady's number.
Yeah. Tom Brady is still the greatest quarterback of all time. It's sad what he's going through. I know people joke about it, but it's kind of sad. I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he does not look well. That is for sure.
Are you trading? Before we get to the next one, are you trading for Tom Brady? Because I believe that I have an offer to get him for Davis Mills in a second, and I am leaning towards doing that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Davis, as somebody who has traded you for Davis Mills, I don't really believe that he's a long-term answer in Houston. It's not trending that way. So if you can get rid of him, bring on Tom Brady, win this year, I would 1000% do it. And then just worry about next year when next year comes around. You're a wheeler and dealer, so you'll be able to get some skin in the game when it comes draft week. So I would totally take that deal. Like I said, I don't want to be caught with. I'm already going to be caught with Davis Mills, but like I said, in our league, I got Bryce Young and I got C.J. Stroud coming my way, so I got no problem with that. But
and you got a bunch of you have all my draft picks, so
that keep losing.
I'm not though. I'm doing well.
No, I know.
For now, it's when you're a top-heavy team, the pressure is on, and then it's almost like an addict almost. Like if one of your studs gets hurt, you're just sitting there like, oh crap, how do I go get someone else? My team has become so top-heavy because every time someone gets hurt, it's just like, okay, well shit, I got to replace this guy. So like now what am I doing? Like who can I give away for my team to fill this hole? And it's self-perpetuating because don't be like me. I mean, I'm trending well, but I don't know. I hate it when my players get hurt.
That's the whole thing behind Dynasty, right? It actually makes you feel like a GM because you're constantly thinking about how to get your team better.
Yeah.
My next one is going to be two guys we've already talked about, Dameon Pierce or Brian Robinson. And I know this is the question where you're like, I don't want either one of them long term, but give me one guy that you would prefer to have long term, and then you can give me the guy that you really want long term.
And you already know my game. This is a good one because I don't want either. I mean, I guess give me the guy. Give me Pierce because Robinson is not going to get the pass catching work. So Pierce is going to be on the field all the time. And then I would trade Dameon Pierce at the end of the season before the draft. You're going to be having like a James Robinson hot potato type situation. If I had these guys, I mean, especially Pierce, give me Darrell Henderson in a 2023 too.
Really riding that Darrell Henderson wave. I gotta applaud that. I have got to applaud
I
that
mean, I think
because
we've exchanged a little bit on Twitter. Like, this team is dog shit. Like the Rams are. They're gonna have to run the fucking ball and pass to Cooper Cup, and they're not getting out of this hole anytime soon. So they're kind of everyone just assumes they're gonna fix this situation with their salary cap, and it's just not gonna happen. The highest cost saving they can get next season is trading away Bobby Wagner, and they would save $4 million on the cap. They're
yeah,
screwed unless they restructure Ram style, which I don't even know if they can do because they're literally in cap hell right now, and that's fine for them. They won a Super Bowl. I hope you enjoy it because banners fly forever, but ticket sales don't.
yeah. I mean, I talked about it on TSS. You know, they did the most LA thing that you could do. They sold their entire future out for 1 year of glory, and it's like, cool. Like you said, you got a Super Bowl, but your next 10 years are not going to be very good, and
I don't know about
it's
10
looking
years.
like
I mean, they're going to be so bad that by the time they get their pick back, they'll be first overall. So,
yeah, in 10 years because they always throw away all their picks.
I mean, if they trade for someone, and I mean, I had a Twitter post too. Like, if they were to try and say they wanted to sign Odell or trade for Christian McCaffrey, which would probably help them, they couldn't even do it because like even if they were like, oh, we need to cut Allen Robinson would be a negative $8 million cap hit if they'd moved him at all, and they only have
Yeah,
$6 million worth of cap space. I mean, it's comical.
yeah. I mean, I would think go after somebody like a DJ Moore who's still on their rookie contract. Don't have to pay him too much, and then you go. There you go. You got your third receiver, and
I
he's probably
just
going to be way better than Allen Robinson would be. And yeah, that would be a Rams move right there to go after DJ Moore and to think
Yeah.
that that would patch up the tendonitis problem that Stafford has and the fact that that offensive line sucks.
I mean, I was talking to Eric from the Bubblehead podcast, which they're a good listen to. Listen to them. I mean, he. I don't know if Stafford's going to be good. I mean, I know that Jordan McNamara, Football Guys, on his podcast the other day was saying that he thinks that Stafford is going to get better, but I don't see it on our sheets. Let me raise this one to you. Who would you rather have, Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson?
Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson? I think I'd rather see Matt Stafford because
Wow.
even though he has the tendonitis elbow, I've never seen Russell Wilson throw the ball as poorly as he is doing it in Denver right now.
See,
And
give me Russell Wilson. That's interesting. I'm
yeah,
uh, I'm
well, because
actively trying to
look,
get
Matthew
Russell Wilson.
Stafford still has Cooper Cup. He's hyper targeting Tyler Higbee. At the end of the day, Russell Wilson is in a foreign land over there. I mean, he makes it look foreign because he doesn't look like he's been at fucking spring training camp, any of that stuff. He looks like he is lost out there legitimately. And
Uh,
he's lost a lot of the luster that was his game. I've never really liked Russell Wilson as a fantasy quarterback because sometimes his big games are like 230 yards and like 3 touchdowns. And I'm just like, that's not really a big game when Patrick Mahomes can get me 5 touchdowns and 350 yards, you know,
yeah,
6 times out of the year.
you're not wrong, but at the same time, Russell Wilson's going to get an upgrade at coach. I mean, this you can't deny. This coaching has been an absolute grease fire. I mean, whereas in LA, I don't. I mean, you're at the tip of the iceberg here. I mean, you got Sean McVay, you won a Super Bowl. I think that's all health. I think Russell Wilson is all just a combination of poor coaching, poor play design, and a little bit of it is he's not running as much. Everyone wants to point out he missed KJ Hamler in the back of the end zone. You want to know why Matt Nagy sucked with Mitch Trubisky? Partly is because he wasn't moving him out of the pocket. Watch the Broncos games. Tell me how often they move Russell Wilson, who's short as fuck, out of the pocket. That's the problem. He can't see anyone, I'm convinced. If you start moving him around and doing these play action design runs, you're going to start seeing Russell Wilson actually starting to do well. And I think that that's got to be coming. I mean, I don't know what
So
has to happen, but like every time I watch these guys, he's stepping back in the pocket, and I just don't understand why they're not doing the rollouts that he's always had in the past.
it's because defenses play more contain against him. Russell
You're gonna
Wilson
have
used to
to.
roll out a ton when defenses would just bull rush up the middle, or they wouldn't, if you can create that he's not that fast. He's just
No,
got that little cheeky little spin move, but everybody's picked up on it. You can look at all the defenses they're playing him. Why he's getting sacked so much is because he can't move around in the pocket anymore. He's not like, he doesn't have his little cheeky spin move. And to be honest with you, I'm also going to blame a little bit on Russell Wilson. Like Richard Sherman says it best. This man took no accountability. Like they gave him no accountability for his actions. Dude, you have the ability to check down to a run if you on that play. You have that ability. You are a veteran in this league. You are a highly paid veteran in this
he
league.
is, but
You're supposed to be a coach-esque type person out there, a team leader,
he's a cook, man.
somebody who can say, look, guys, I don't like this pass play. Let's go to a run and let's not make the same mistake we made in the Super Bowl. That's the type of player he's supposed to be. That's the type of player you paid $250 million for. And you're going to sit here and tell me it's all on Nathaniel Hackett? No. I think that Nathaniel Hackett can take his lumps, but I think at the end of the day, Russell Wilson has to look at the man in the mirror and say, hey, am I really worth $250 million?
I think coaching matters, hands down, man. I mean, I've seen
Well, I
so
mean,
many.
coaching matters, but tell me how he succeeded so much in Seattle when he was going through how many coordinators? How many coordinators did he have in Seattle? He had a new offensive coordinator like every 2 years, it seemed
I
like.
mean, he was putting up statistics, yes, but he also was at least comfortable with his receivers, right? I mean, he's had those receivers for. I mean, you're not wrong. I could easily be persuaded out of this. I just feel like the cost to get him is fairly controllable right now. And I don't think
Oh,
he's
yeah.
done. I really don't think he's done. I think that this could be a blip on the radar. We knew that this division was going to beat the shit out of each other, by the way. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
wrote Oakland off 2 weeks ago. Now they're back in the running, even though they kind of lost on Monday. I'm not ready to write the Broncos off. I think they can right this ship, but I'll be, you know, I'm willing to guarantee that Sean Payton will either be coaching the Broncos or the Chargers come next season. Those are the two teams that
You,
I just.
I don't doubt that. And Sean Payton's already hinted at that by saying that he'll take Taysom Hill off the Saints. But listen, I think that Russell Wilson, like I said, I've never seen him throw shittier passes than this season. Like nothing looks right with him.
But
Um,
he leaked to the media that he had a shoulder surgery. Are you not
I
buying
know.
that? Are
Yeah.
you
He also has a torn labia.
torn lip? I'm telling you, man. How dare you? How dare you trash the man? He's injured, you jackass.
Yeah. Yeah. He's injured. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, that was actually a good one. I still think I'll take Stafford because of the familiarity in that system. I think that Stafford isn't done himself. But yeah, I mean, both these guys need to pick up their game because in redraft, they might be droppable very soon if they don't. But my next one, I want you to give me a rookie wide receiver that you want in Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of Dotson, so I'm holding him. I was talking with Bo McBriar on Twitter earlier. Not talking, I tweeted back at him. I mean, I don't really have too much interaction with him, but um, everyone's writing off Elijah Moore because Garrett Wilson's been having himself a day, and I don't know if that's the right process. So I know you said which one I want. I'll tell you, I don't want Elijah. I don't want Garrett Wilson because I think there's too many mouths to feed in that offense. If we're looking at a guy that you absolutely want, and I have a lot of shares of him, I mean, I have him where I got him. I traded up for Drake London, and I'm extremely happy with that process that led to that, thanks to Josh Larkey. London's a stud, and that's the guy you want. He's got the target volume. He's going to dominate that offense. You get Ridley coming back, so maybe that's going to open up some more coverage next year. If Ridley does indeed come back, he might get traded. I don't know how that's going, but that's the guy I want. I don't want too much of London. London was always boomer bust. He was high on my draft list behind Pickens, But there's just so many mouths. I mean, look at New York. Where's their weakness on offense? Their line, right? You got Garrett Wilson, you got Corey Davis, and you got Elijah Moore. I'd go buy Elijah Moore right now. I'm trying to, but like, I just I'd rather be with the guy that
He's
has the
probably one of the cheaper guys you can buy in Dynasty that
yeah.
it's actually worth a shit.
I'm all about less competition for targets.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
less
know in Dynasty
competition.
it's a little bit murkier because that can change in a season, but targets are earned, and Drake London has been an absolute freaking beast. And I know the last couple of weeks he's kind of gone down a little bit, but still, I still think he's a specimen.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't up on him this year because I didn't see much more than him being a box out tight end or slash power forward, as I like to call him, where he just literally boxes out his defender and
Is he a better tight
catches the
end than
ball.
Kyle Pitts?
At this point, fucking Tyler Conklin's a better tight end than Kyle Pitts. Um, but that's another thing, right? Like you talk about like competition for targets. Like we joke around, but Kyle Pitts isn't going to be this way forever. Like he'll turn it around in the coming weeks. Something's got to give at this point. I mean, either Kyle Pitts is not going to turn it around and be trade bait this upcoming year, or he's going to turn around and Drake London's going to be, you're going to be guessing because I don't think Mariota could feed both of them. And
Mariota's
I
not the
just don't
guy
think it's the
next year.
capability.
For all we know, I know there is a rumor the Rams are going to trade, or the Falcons are going to trade Kyle Pitts for Taysom Hill. So go get Taysom Hill while you can.
Does that mean that Sean Payton's going to Atlanta? He's following Taysom Hill wherever he goes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. He's enamored with Marcus Mariota.
Nice. So I'm gonna go with Garrett Wilson on this one. I just like the talent there. And I like what the Jets are building. The Jets are legitimately making this team something to see in the future. And Zach Wilson, this is your tryout period, son. You got to make this happen because you have all the talent around you. You have a legit dynasty number one running back. You have good tight ends. You have 3 good wide receivers. Your offensive line is good. Your defense is up and coming. This is a team that in the next year or so is going to be making that wild card push. And I think that Garrett Wilson's going to be behind a lot of that. He's an elite talent at wide receiver. And, I think with him and Elijah Moore, it's going to be kind of a game of pick 'em going into the next 2 years. I think they're both elite talents that could, wreck the game at any moment. And yeah, I mean, if I were to pick one right now, I would say Garrett Wilson.
Well, we didn't even get to Pickens. Pickens is my number 2. Wilson's number 3.
Pickens is actually my number 2 too. Yeah. London was my number 3. And then I like Olave. I just don't know if it's going to be sustainable for Dynasty. That's my biggest problem.
I know you gave me 5. I got another one for you.
Shoot.
And this one might be easy, but Kyle Pitts or George Kittle?
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. I mean,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Is Kittle done though?
No. I think Kittle's still got maybe 1 or 2 more good redraft years in him. I mean, this year, it's super hard to tell because, 2 down left tackles, an offensive line that, is is okay, but they still got the right tackle who can't pass block worth of shit. So they're constantly shifting them all over the line. I mean, if I were to even say Kyle Pitts right now over George Kittle, would you hate me over it?
No, I mean,
would you hate me?
I mean, I remember I sold him before this string of injuries for the 101 and then another one, and it was Devi, but like it's worked out well. And that's the thing. It's just funny. We talk about it all the time. You do trades sometimes that you really don't want to do, but you're supposed to do. It's like trading Jonathan Taylor this offseason. the process I have told me to trade him, and I did, and I didn't love it, but here we are.
And it's worked out, transitioning perfectly into Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor. This will
Oh,
be our last one.
Saquon Barkley, not even close.
Really?
I'm
Saquon
telling you,
Barkley, huh?
uh, the process I've had is when you're RB1, you get one more top 10 finish. Now, Saquon can probably finish as that, but then I'm going to sell Saquon at the end of the season because that's my process. When you have the number one overall player at a position, I ship them off because that's your time to get. That's how you build depth. That's how I've built my teams out. It's risky, but like I said, I trust my process and the players I buy. I'll go down. If my team is bad. If you listen to me and your team's bad, my team's bad. So I have failed you and myself.
Actually, I don't mind Barkley either. I just thought it was a little bit of a tougher question considering Jonathan Taylor, was still the RB1.
I
He's
mean,
coming back this
you're
week.
talking to like contrarian 101 here, so I usually
Yeah.
rarely have the same 101 as everyone out there. So, and it's not that I do it on purpose, it's just I think about things in different ways, and that's, it's not to be contrarian per se, it's just the way I view the game and the way I interpret statistics. I look at data all day in my current job, so.
Well, let's move on to dynasty moves for bad teams. If your team right now is 2-3, 1-4, 0-5, what are you doing right now? What is your move? And we're not going to go with specific players. I'm just saying, what's your move? Are you shipping off veterans for picks? Are you trying to leverage certain rookies for picks?
I mean, here's the deal. So I'm leveraging, and you'll laugh at this. I actually had a friend, and I have a friend in my home dynasty league who was asking me for advice on a trade, and I told him to ship off Chris Olave. I think Olave is a good sell high right now. I think that entire New Orleans situation is very murky. Dennis Allen does not look like he kind of looks like he's in over his head. They're going to lean more on the running game going forward. It looks like if they can use Taysom Hill and Kamara this way. And so I'm shipping those off for picks. And Eric at Bubblehead, going to give him a shout out because I like good opinions. I'm all in on trading for 2024 picks right now. 23 ones are hard to go by. Every single analyst is telling you to trade for those. But, when you get the reality is when you get these trade discussions, no one wants to give those up. 24 class looks to be decent, and I think you can get more bang for your buck. I would even consider, if you can, holding on to these picks if you have any 23s and move out of this class if you can. Like if you can get a deal, like people are so enamored with this class with the prospects that are there. I'm going to advise against my. I have 2 picks. I have a lot. I have 2 or more picks in most of my drafts. I intend to trade a lot of my picks. I think people are going to blow their skis in this draft class, and this is how you capitalize on bad mistakes.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And in a Devy situation where most of the good players are already taken, it could be very easy to just get rid of all your picks and focus on a different class. For me, I'm leveraging a lot of veterans at this point. I do agree. I think the Olave thing is smart. Like I said, I don't think Olave is a long-term plan. I think he is more of just like a flash in the pan type of guy. Maybe he lasts like a year or two, but I don't think that the way that he's being used right now is going to be a long-term thing for the Saints. I think the more long-term option is probably Garrett Wilson or maybe even a Drake London. Pickens too, yeah. Pickens is an interesting one because they've got so much talent around him right now.
Yeah.
But I guess you could say the same thing for Garrett Wilson. But for me, I'm
sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, like we were saying earlier, I'm looking at guys like a Damian Pierce or, maybe even a Brian Robinson. And I'll look at those guys as possible chips to play in there. And, even like maybe even a Breece Hall at this point. Look at that because, we said it. Running backs is – what's up?
Isn't he just so expensive, though? I mean, on my Twitter feed, everyone's like go get Brees Hall,
But
and it's just
that's why you trade him. That's what I'm
oh,
saying.
trade
I
him.
would
Yeah,
trade
yeah,
him
yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha.
because
I
of all the
interpreted
hype
it as
around him right
yeah,
now. And it's like running backs, really just have a shelf life of about 1 to 3 years, most of them. And, you could just get the next new flavor next year. You get B. John Robinson next year because of a trade you did with Brees Hall this year. And then, I think that that's the type of guy you want to cash in on because you might be able to still be able to go out and get some good, viable players, maybe add a receiver and add some picks because his stuff is through the roof right now, right? Brees Hall, after this breakout game, everybody has been trying to manifest this breakout game, and it happened. And now his stock right now is the highest it's going to be all year.
I disagree. It's gonna be after they upset Green Bay. Green Bay's run defense is shit. I think he's gonna have a good game against Green Bay, and that's when I would sell him.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
One guy we
Either
talked
way, I
about it.
think.
Oops,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go. Now, say another thing I was gonna say. We talked about it. Elijah Moore is if you're a struggling rebuilding team, give me Elijah Moore. He's very cost effective right now because people think Garrett Wilson's gonna just be the guy there. Um, that offense is built to succeed. They have the quarterback. They need line play. Um, I'm all in on Elijah Moore. I think you can get him for a 2 right now. Um, it's all about leveraging these peaks and valleys during the season. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Sell all your
Yeah.
running backs. I don't even think that. I I don't know, man. What's your view on the running back? If you're a rebuilding team, what's your strategy? Because the way I've advised people is the running back is like the cherry on top. I go quarterback, receiver, running back. I mean, tight end you can kind of put in there with receiver a little bit if you get one.
Yeah. So for running backs, I like to try and wheel and deal older running backs onto my team for like lesser picks, just to kind of play out the year with them. But I'm the same way with you. I like my receivers. I like my quarterbacks. I think I like my receivers a little bit more than my quarterbacks.
Yeah, super
All
flex.
depending on the setup of the league. Obviously, if it's single quarterback, I'll take receivers all day. If it's
Yeah,
super flex, I'll take quarterbacks over receivers. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm somebody who bought in on Aaron Jones at a low price. I was also somebody who swiped AJ Dillon in a draft 2 years ago. I was accumulating guys that I thought had a chance to be something, and
yeah,
I've gone up and I picked DeAndre Swift just so I could trade him away after a couple games. I like to do the whole situation of wheeling and dealing with running backs. I've acquired Zeke just to have a running back in my roster that I knew was going to start. But I also have 3 first-round picks, so I know I'm going to have a good shot at getting Robinson this year. Like, I have no problem taking on, like I said, Aaron Jones. I sent Dalvin Cook away last week after his big game against the Bears. I'm just trying to at this point, I love the dealing of running backs. I collect them in startup drafts. I'm the guy that goes 6 running backs deep and then trades them all for better players.
that's funny. I go the opposite. When I first did this show with you, if you listen to me a year ago, you'll notice a change in how I do this. I used to be running back heavy first, quarterback late, and now it's just if you can get that quarterback, that sets you. It's just like the NFL. You get 2 quarterbacks, you're set up for success for a while. Barring a terrible injury.
Yeah.
I mean, running backs, like you said, are just so fickle. And I have found it's harder to trade them lately. Maybe like even a Nick Chubb, who I had pegged as my RB1 this year because of the situation in Cleveland. Um, I mean, you can't get much for him, even though he's clearly the best running back in the league, or Saquon. And I know age is a factor, but people just they're catching on. So
Well, what's funny is you say people are catching on, but there are a lot of people that will just still run with the trends. Like, you're absolutely right about Nick Chubb. A lot of people just run with the idea that he's just solely a rushing running back and that doesn't mean anything. Unlike, Derrick Henry, who's only, done it for so long and been a top 5 running back for how many years running now?
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is an interesting name because a lot of people that drafted Saquon in the 3rd and 4th round in dynasty startups, I'm sure that they have, traded away plenty of Saquon shares to get, future picks. And I'm sure they've had no problem getting 2 first-round picks because, his value right now says he might be turning the corner on his injury-prone status. He might have another 2 to 3 years of successful talent ahead of him, successful years. So I would like to hear if anybody has any Saquon trades. Send it to our DMs, Dynasty Brews Podcast on Twitter. Send it to us. I want to see some Saquon trades from this year.
I traded for him. I gave up 2 firsts and Cam Akers.
Yeah.
People made fun of me. I was like, dude, Cam Akers sucks. Here we are.
There you go. And Cam Akers is at home with a personal issue. Hope it's okay.
Yeah, I don't. That whole thing is. You think he was betting on sports? Think he was pulling a Calvin Ridley?
On sports, yeah. I think this time it was DraftKings. Yeah, they can sponsor the NFL, but if an NFL player goes on it, oh shit. But we could have our stuff all over it. Yeah, that's great.
Same thing with beer. Yeah, beer's the same way.
What's up? Yeah,
their beer sponsorships are weird too.
Care to elaborate?
Like the league has Budweiser, but like the Cowboys, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was beer or like soft drinks, but like the Cowboys had signed. So like I think it was when Coors was the national sponsor, and then the Cowboys had like Budweiser as their sponsor. There was like a conflict with the league a couple of years ago. I just thought it was funny. And then now, the official sponsor, those official sponsors buy those things. That way they can put on commercials. But like Amazon, they can't even you can't have beer commercials on Amazon.
That is interesting. The league is a very interesting spot. Anyways, though, we're about to wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed it. We are back. We're going to be back more routinely. Sorry about it. Got to work schedule stuff, but I got to make the bacon until I can make this thing work. And, I know Justin's excited to get back to Dynasty talking. He always loves that. But as usual, guys, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the support. And stay frosty, Brew Crew.